coming up.
We were just getting over the fire in the plant early on in the year, and then COVID hit.
At that point, I don't even know that we felt like we were getting a true picture of the magnitude of this. This is uncharted territory.
The packing plant we normally use, if I was to call him to put bookings on, I think he's out to September of 2022.
Learn how COVID-19 impacted different segments of the beef industry next on The American Rancher. Hello and welcome to this special edition of The American Rancher. I'm Pam Minnick. The Red Angus Association of America is devoting this episode to telling the stories of folks in the beef industry as they work through the exceptional challenges that emerged with the COVID-19 pandemic. The Red Angus Association of America stands with the industry as we all work towards a new normal during these final months of 2020.
My name is Quentin Schildknott, and I am a fourth-generation rancher here in the Texas Panhandle in a small town called Spearman, Texas. My dad and I originally started Schildknott Landing Cattle in 2009. We've since partnered up with my sister, Kelly and Clara. I am essentially the vice president of our operation. We started in the Red Angus business back in 2009. We bought our first Red Angus females. And since then, we've grown into an operation of about 600 commercial females and about 150 registered females.
I'm Sean Tiffany. I'm an owner here at Tiffany Cattle Company along with my brother Shane. Tiffany Cattle Company is a custom finishing feed yard. We have two locations, one in Morris County, Kansas, and one in McPherson County, Kansas. And we finish approximately 60 to 70,000 head of cattle a year, have a one-time capacity of 32,000 head between the two yards, and work with roughly 300 different entities throughout any given year as far as customers go. Customer base is 300.
My name is Celeste Citrini, and I am a partner and manager of Citrini Ranches in Salinas, California. We're located on the central coast of California, which is about, I'd say 35 miles inland from the Pacific Ocean. We have been here on our ranch now for about 105 years. Originally, family came from Switzerland and settled here and started a dairy. And then my grandpa and his brothers had a Hereford operation for a number of years. As they got older, my dad took over and he started Red Angus, and that's what we still have today. We have a commercial Red Angus cow-calf operation, and it's my brother John and myself are involved in the day-to-day operations, and then my mom Anita takes care of all the banking and money situation, tells us how much we can or cannot spend.
I'm Chief Operations Officer for Bluegrass Livestock Marketing Group. We operate 7 livestock markets around the state of Kentucky. We sell 6 days a week and generally market between 400 and 500,000 head of cattle a year, along with some sheep, goats, and hogs at a couple of our smaller locations.
Hi, my name is Kevin Miller with Crossman Red Angus in Briggsdale, Colorado. I am the managing partner for our family's seed stock operation, and I oversee day-to-day activities within the seed stock operation plus our small feed yard that we have here on the ranch. My initial thoughts as they announced that COVID-19 had hit the U.S. Was pretty nonchalant because, we're isolated in the middle of the country. We don't see a whole lot of people from other countries, and so I didn't think it was going to have much of an impact on us.
It was just like any other news, I think, for me. I heard it on the nightly news, and I just thought, oh gosh, now what's happening in the world? And I didn't think a whole heck of a lot about it for a few days. I just felt like this was something that was going to run its course, and in a week or two, everything would get back to normal.
I remember there in late February, my family and I attended Equifest in Salina, and of course we're a rural ag family. So we don't go to town very often. When we do, we typically stop at the store, and we were starting to notice things missing. It wasn't so much food.
I noticed that there wasn't any water, or there wasn't any toilet paper, and there was all kinds of lines of people lined up outside the grocery stores to get necessities. And I think then I finally realized, wow, this thing's a little bit bigger than what I had anticipated.
January, February, and March are our primary travel months for the marketing team at Red Angus. So we kind of discovered COVID as we traveled, and that was probably our biggest indicator that there was definitely things changing in the United States. And maybe the thing that brought it home the clearest to me was one of our commercial marketing specialists, Nolan Woodruff, sent us a Snapchat, and he did a 360-degree pan in the Denver International Airport. And as he made that circle filming it, there was not one person in the video. And that's when it really hit home to me that we were in a whole new ball game and we were going to have to do things a lot different.
At that point, I don't even know that we felt like we were getting a true picture of the magnitude of this through the media, because everybody was kind of groping in the dark, so to speak. The media, our politicians, and I'm not faulting anybody for that. This is uncharted territory.
Coming up,
The packing plant we normally use, if I was to call him to put bookings on, I think he's out to September of 2022.
the early effects of the pandemic wreak havoc on the entire beef industry. That's after the break on this special edition of The American Rancher, brought to you by the Red Angus Association of America. Welcome back to The American Rancher. This episode is brought to you by the Red Angus Association of America. As COVID-19 begins to take its toll, the entire world goes on lockdown. Like so many other segments of the economy, the beef industry is hit hard.
We were just getting over the fire in the plant early on in the year, and things were starting to bounce back market-wise. And then COVID hit, and it became very apparent fairly quick that as long as the plants could stay online, things were good. But as we started taking plants offline or decreasing the line speed, it became a simple supply and demand kind of curve on the front side. And so as we had our discussions within our management team, it was important to make sure that you had a space in line to get in when your cattle were ready.
Well, once the lockdowns began, as far as our operation, our calves are ready to sell the 1st of May. And so normally I don't go and chase the market like that. It's something that we always market them the first week in May. The market sometimes is really, really good, and other years not quite as good, but that's what we stick with. This year, we decided that we're going to hold off if we can. And we kind of assessed the situation, and we had enough grass, thank goodness, from rains that we had last year. And so they would be able to sustain those mama cows and the babies. And we would put them on the video the end, meaning that we would ship them about a month later. And we had enough feed for them in hopes that through the month of May, things might settle down. Packing plants might get into some sort of routine and people get back to work, and then the market pick up a little bit. And that was a pretty good decision to make, because though the market isn't as good as it has been in the past, waiting that month, we fared, decent.
Sid Miller in the state of Texas sent out a letter to most essential workers here in the state. If you were a farmer or rancher, a lot of us received those by email. And we visited with each employee once the lockdowns began and told them, we were designated essential workers here on our operation at Shilnut Land Cattle. And we wanted to make sure that everybody was comfortable, whether they wanted to continue to work in the workplace or if they wanted to shelter in place. We wanted to make sure those employees had that option. Everyone with a resounding yes will be at work tomorrow and ready to go with their boots on. And we have kind of, tried to keep our distance where we could, and all that entailed with the guidelines. And, essentially a lot of us are all alone in whatever role we have on the farm, whether it be checking cows or moving cows. There's a lot of space in between you when you're gathering a herd up to either give vaccinations or for branding. But once branding and things like that happen, we try to keep our distance from each other on the guidelines that were set. The most difficulties that we faced since March has been the ability to get our cattle processed and to the consumer. The packing plant we normally use is usually easy to get into. And when the news hit in March where some of the shortages from the packing plants in Tyson and in that manner, a lot of people rushed to their local butcher to be able to put bookings on the books. And if I was to call him today, I think he's out to September of 2022.
When things really began to lock down, we were in direct communications with our Commissioner of Agriculture and with the National Livestock Marketing Association to try to figure out how to be able to continue to do business for our customers. One of the real things that sticks in my mind that our Commissioner of Agriculture told me one day on the phone, he said, you guys may be the only source of cash these farmers have got through this thing, and we've got to keep you guys open. And we've been able to do that, but it has been a challenge, no doubt.
Here at Tiffany Cattle Company, there was a progression early on. It was trying to educate our employees on what they needed to do on behalf of their families, what they needed to do for the safety of Tiffany Cattle Company and the cattle here and the customers, and ensuring that we had continuity of operations. We sent out a letter to our customers letting them know that we wanted them to only show up by appointment, and we were going to have certain restrictions. We also wanted to make sure that they knew our stance on this, and that was we were taking it very seriously, but we also know that God's in control and was not caught off guard by this, and so we didn't need to be ruled by fear.
Probably our biggest impact from COVID, especially early in the spring, was just in travel. We quit flying. We wanted to keep our staff healthy, but we also wanted to keep the producers that we met and visited with healthy as well. So we felt like driving would be our biggest way to do that. So we saw some changes there and definitely changed the way we traveled. But our challenges were nothing like those ranchers that were trying to figure out how to have a sale and those commercial cattlemen trying to figure out how to buy those bulls.
So our bull sale happens the latter part of March. We came to a decision that we moved everything to just a strictly online sale. The big decision there is let's keep our family, our customers' families safe. And we've got a responsibility to our community for keeping the local community safe and healthy as well. And I was a little bit worried about how some of our customers that were not nearly as technologically driven would adapt to it, but they did a really good job. And that told us that, as agriculturalists, we can adapt to whatever we see coming at us.
I guess the nature of folks in our business to put your head down and just do the work. But the other thing that happened during Corona that we had to figure out a way to do was we had a lot of purebred events that were typically hosted at public fairgrounds, government facilities that suddenly were calling us saying, look, it seems like you all figured out how to do this. Can we have our purebred sale at your facility? And we picked up numerous of those events through March, April, and May. We were able to accommodate a lot of those folks. And for the most part, those sales were very successful.
With new cattle coming in, it's certainly been an issue of just making sure we have a very solid risk management program. One of the things that we noticed going through the spring is prices got depressed so low on feeder cattle that we're actually feeding cattle for people in our area and actually in our region who typically don't feed cattle. Folks that typically take their calves off the ranch and take them to the sale barn. But at that time, the prices were so depressed that they couldn't even afford to do that. And so it's generated some new relationships. We're optimistic that that'll work out well for those customers. But even in that situation, especially with plant closures where forward contracting didn't unfold the way it was supposed to, we've got to be very careful as we place new cattle and making sure that we've got a good outlet for these cattle, because at a certain point, they're no longer an asset, they become a liability, and we've got to get them harvested at that point and get that meat into the supply chain.
After the break,
Nothing else, COVID again reaffirmed to the American consumer that beef is the choice protein.
every dark cloud has a silver lining. That story is next on this special edition of The American Rancher, brought to you by the Red Angus Association of America. Welcome back to The American Rancher, brought to you this week by the Red Angus Association of America. With the devastating effects of the COVID-19 pandemic still raging, the beef industry begins to carve out a new normal.
Some positive things that have come out of it is we have been able to retain more heifers and try to boost the genetics on our commercial side to be able to provide more quality cattle with what people are looking for. I think Red Angus has just launched our business forward, and people are finding out that just like certified Angus beef, I think they're starting to figure out that Red Angus beef doesn't give an inch, it doesn't give an ounce, it tastes just as good. And they have found a love for aged Red Angus meat, and our customer base has exploded. Usually on a scale, we'll sell 2 or 3 a month. Over the last 2 months, we've sold 25 a month. And if we could find the shackle space and be able to turn the product, I believe we would be selling 10 to 15 a month all year.
In looking in positivity for something that is so tragic as what we're dealing with right now, for me, I'm really engaged on social media. And so I have a lot of followers that follow what I do on the ranch. For the most, share photos of our day-to-day operation of what's happening, whether cows are calving or we're fixing a water trough or putting out supplement, whatever it might be. I'm sharing those pretty much every day. So I have a lot of folks, my off-ranch friends, I like to call them, that are city folks that are really interested in what we do. And so they follow along. And I've noticed that I'm getting more questions and more interaction of people who are truly interested in cooking beef. And I think that's something kind of exciting. It seems like barbecues are more exciting than they used to be.
COVID-19 has generated some opportunities to get our industry in front of people that maybe don't necessarily think about it. I had the opportunity to do an interview with the Washington Post, and obviously their readership is probably not watching as much RFD TV as some of those of us out here in the country. And so it was an opportunity to shine the light on how people in Washington, D.C. or New York City, how that beef moves from the ranch level here in the Midwest all the way to their plate. And there was actually a very good response to that article and an appreciation for ranchers and feed yard owners and packers and meat wholesalers to understand how much infrastructure exists just to get a hamburger to a restaurant plate.
Well, one of the things that I've seen come out of this that if it sticks, will be positive, and that's a move toward more self-reliance, personal responsibility. We've had a lot of people come into the market and want to buy a calf to have for a beef this fall or next spring. We've seen a lot of our customers get more involved in the freezer beef business and work really hard at it. And from my perspective, those are cattle that we're not going to sell here in our market, and most guys in my shoes would be upset about that. But my opinion is anything that keeps those producers profitable means they're going to have cattle, and I'm going to get to sell some of them.
As we get into this last quarter of 2020 and look forward to 2021, the markets are opening up a little bit. We're seeing some profitable calf prices. We're seeing some opportunities for feedlots to be profitable. So I think all of those things are positive. I think that we as ranchers need to continue to differentiate our calves as we put them in the marketplace. We need to have more verifications. We need to have more proven facts about our cattle. But if we can do those things, I think the market has shown us that it's willing to recognize that and pay us for it. And I think that we're going to continue to see these cattle bring good prices. And I think that if nothing else, COVID again reaffirmed to the American consumer that beef is the choice protein. It's the protein we all want. And maybe we've learned how to cook it again.
We have identified some things within the system that we know need worked on, taking some inefficiencies out of our system. I mean, for example, we're doing this interview over a computer, and we would have never done that before. And so what sort of inefficiencies exist within the entire economic system that we'll discover that we can do without? But at the end of the day, I think that we'll all get better, stronger for going through this. At the time that you're going through it, you don't think so. But as Winston Churchill says, if you're going through hell, just keep on going and you'll get out of it.
As the year begins to wind down, the beef industry is regaining its strength. And the Red Angus Association of America is working harder than ever for the profitability of its members, and it shows. As Red Angus producers move forward, programs like the Feeder Calf Certification Program, American Red in partnership with Santa Gertrudis Breeders International, and Premium Red Baldy in partnership with the American Hereford Association are just a few of the options Red Angus producers have when it comes to putting quality, profitable pounds on the ground. To learn more, log on to redangus.org. That's all the time we have today. We hope you enjoyed this show. To find out more about us, visit our website, theamericanrancher.com, or connect with us on Facebook. I'm Pam Minnick. For our entire American Rancher team, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Superior.